Hello guys, welcome to my video. I am here to turn this beautiful home, a Japanese estate. It looks beautiful. I got it all from Fab in Unreal Engine. I made the world, I added these mountains and it just looks absolutely beautiful. Well, I'm going to turn this into a horrifying horror scene. So the first thing I'm going to do is play with the lighting, and that is why I'm going to make this video, because I'm going to be experimenting with the lighting. So it's time. So I've got all these lamps as light sources. Obviously they're not really emitting that much light, but don't worry, we'll fix that in this video. We'll also add lights in here. The little candles don't really need to be shown, but a light source can just come out of that. Obviously the one and only light source, the light source that we all live in, the sun, obviously. Now, to make a scene more horrifying, obviously a lot of horror movies are set in the dark, so that's what I'll be doing. Right, so I'll be turning this, so obviously movies are set in at the night, based around the night time to increase fear factor. So what I will do is I will turn the sun, put the sun down, and I'm using ultra dynamic sky. And as show, it's a great success. So now what I'll do is, as you can see, the light sources from the lamps is actually enhancing because of the darkness, which is actually giving a very a nighttime soothing vibe. So that's not really what we want, but it's a good start. So next we'll go to ultra dynamic weather, and we'll add thunder and lightning. So thunderstorms, there we go. So as you can see in the distance, thunderstorm clouds are showing. This gives a kind of fear factor horror kind of vibe. Obviously it's pitch black, so we'll fix that, but the lanterns are, immersing it. So yeah, that's step one of lighting, that is. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to edit the rain a little bit. I know this has nothing to do with lighting, but I just feel like it's good to kind of increase horror factor a little bit. So I'm going to edit the cloud coverage. I'm going to turn it a little bit. I'm just going to make it very cloudy. Already it was very cloudy, but I'm also going to edit the rain and make it like a lot of rain. I'm going to edit the thunder, and I'm going to have a lot of thunder in our scene, because obviously horror movies have a lot of thunder. And the wind intensity I'm only gonna put to about here, because I just feel like that just looks better. Yeah, that looks way better. You know what I'll do? I'll increase the amount of wind, because I just feel like I could do with a bit more wind. Fog is obviously very important. I'm gonna put that all the way high. Yeah, and then obviously gonna go through all of this. The dust, we don't really need that much dust in a thunderstorm. Material wetness is fine, and yeah, that's step one of making the lighting more spooky. So obviously we also want to have light sources that we can obviously see as well. Obviously in a scene we want to, well, we want to see, of course. So what I'll do is I'll add another light source, a brilliant light source it is. I'll show you. We are going to add lights, and we are probably going to add rect lights. So I'm going to come here. There we go. And a rect light is, if I'm not mistaken, it's literally a directional light. That's not the one that we want. It's more like a point light that we need. A point light is definitely what we need. There we go. Look at that. Look at that. So if we place our point light in the lantern, in the stone lantern, it is. Well, the stone light. In obviously in the olden Japanese times, they used lanterns, candles, to emit their light. So that's what I'll be doing here. So obviously it looks a little bit better in the scene, but we will be decreasing the intensity. But then I think the exposure is a bit. It's a bit much, the exposure, I'd say. Also, another thing is, I just need to check if the shadows are okay. Shadows are very important. So I need to. There we go. All I did there was decrease the scale of the light because it was really spreading. So I'd say that's how much light it emits. Also, light colour. Now light colour is very important because obviously in those times, the ancient Japanese times, they used, candlelight. So what I'll do is I'll decrease it to that, and I will turn it into a more fiery yellow. I'll do. Yeah, that looks better, I think. Yeah, that looks much better, I think. This all links to cinematography because lighting is very important in a scene when shooting a sequence or a shot in film. Lighting has to be accurate. So that's what we're trying to do. Much better. Yeah, that's much better, and I will be duplicating this and transferring it to the next lamp over there. There we go. Alright, so that is the two light sources over there. What we will do is we will, to make these a bit more better, we will go to content, go to add a folder and call this light functions. There we go. We'll go into light functions and we will create a material and call it flickering. Right. So the first thing we do is turn the material domain into a light function. Then what we do is add a time node, and then we add a multiply node. Then we put the time node into 8, and then what we do is, if I'm not mistaken, we just hold 1 and left click to get a parameter node, and then we put the parameter node into B. We will add a sine node, and then from sine we add a frac node, and then we plant the frac into the emissive color, and then boom, there we go. Look at that. Now that is what you call a bit of suspense. How can I make it a bit more better though? I think what I can do is I can increase the amount of fog, but I don't want too much fog. Or actually, fog in Japan, I'm thinking of certain games that are set in Japan, where fog is used as like a way to cloud like yourself to hide, which is a good idea. So I'd like to experiment on that. So fog is there. Obviously, if I put fog to like 40, then it's going to be very foggy. But if I put the fog to 20, it's going to look, I think, much better. And what's interesting is that the fog actually makes it a little bit more lighter, which is good because you can see, because if I just decrease the fog, it just doesn't look very like, and then if I increase the fog, it's like, it is only to like, if I increase the fog to 10, it still doesn't, you still don't have that much vision. But if I change it to 15, or even from 15 to 20, that's much better. The vision is increased, and you can see, and you can see much clearer. And that actually includes lighting, fog physics, and the amount of fog which intertwines with the light, because in terms of physics, it makes light more brighter, more detected, which is good. But it also increases fear factor, which I'm trying to aim for. Yeah, I think it looks quite spooky, I'd say. I'd say walking around here, I think it already looks quite spooky, which is very, very good. What else could make it more spooky is adding another light source, using the colour red, which these are obviously using a more tinted orange. But if we go, let's say, I'm thinking more horror games and environments use the colour red as a negative, as a way to fuel negative emotion. So what we will do is we will somehow add the colour red into our shot to make it a bit more spooky. So what we can do is we can go to content drawer, we can find it. So that is the Fab Megascans 3D, and it is the metal lantern over here. And I quite like this because it's quite, it works well in the shot. It works very well in the shot, actually. The one thing we could do, in old Japan, there were like these hanging lanterns like these. What we could do is we could add a hanging lantern over here, give the illusion that these lanterns are actually hanging, and then we could emit them using red lighting. That would be pretty good, because games and movies like I explained, like using the colour red as a sign of negative emotion inside of danger. There we go. Because dark red is a very demon-like character. Red is a very demon-like colour, which which is very useful and very symbolic in Japanese culture. I'm going to increase the intensity a little bit. I'm going to increase the scale. And then I am going to duplicate this. And I'm going to duplicate these two. Including the light, which can be found over here. And I'm going to duplicate these, and I'm going to move and add this, if I can, into the chandelier, because I feel it just looks brilliant. I feel it looks brilliant in these little sections of the area. And now obviously that doesn't really make sense because there's a hole there. So I need to control, there we go. I feel like the best thing to do is to add 4 to make it very decorative. So that's what I'll do. I'll add 4 to make it very decorative. Or just 2, I think 2 will do actually, 2. There we go. I think 2 would be absolutely perfect. Look at that, there we go. And I think 1 more will do in the distance over there. So 1, 2, 3. I'm going to duplicate that. And I'm going to bring it all the way over here into the distance, right over here where that little tiny hallway is. Well, that pathway, I'd say, right there. Now obviously I'll decrease that. It's kind of going through the wall over there, but bear with me. I feel like a hanging lantern like that is quite spooky in the distance. And look at that, there we go. I'd say, because of the lighting, experiment 1, practical 1, has finished. And with that, with the red lights added and with the red lights looking a bit more lifelike, the light functions added to make it a bit more intense, the rain added to increase fear factor, the fog to increase the fear of the unknown, with the lightning to show little flickerings of light as shown in a minute. There we go, lightning right there, showing the little mountain ranges over there, and the lightning used as a little source of light, and the wind causing just causing havoc in the scene, which increases fear factor in the scene. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of experiment 1, which is messing around with lighting for the cinematography of the scene. So thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.